Cameron Ciraldo, a man worthy of every highest title possible. OAM, MBE, he probably has a bachelor's, hell, he has a master's, hell, he has a PhD. But in all seriousness, Cameron, I'm sorry. I apologize to you. I was wrong. You were right. Let's not fight, okay? The Bulldogs had an absolutely emphatic win over the Warriors, 18-6. This was not just any team, by the way. This was the second place Warriors, who have now dropped to third, courtesy of the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. And this was a victory where the Bulldogs might have ultimately just confirmed that they're about to make the finals. They took that tongue out of that logo and ripped it right out. The Warriors weren't bad. The Bulldogs didn't let them play good. It was the most dominant performance I've seen from the Bulldogs since the round 5 victory over the Penrith Panthers. And Bulldogs fans, we've been waiting for this for a long time. I always say, you know, whether the Bulldogs are going to play well within the first 5 minutes. If they start fast, you're onto a good one. If they start slow or concede, it's going to be a long night. But the Bulldogs, thankfully, started in the right way. Rinakama getting all over Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, the former Bulldog spilling the ball into Viliami Kikau's hands, and the big Fijian wasn't done yet. Viliami, within the very next play, a nice offload to Stephen Crichton. Crichton dummies to Berto, goes straight through. The Samoan Willie Lewis opens the account for the Dogs. Dogs lead 6-0 against the New Zealand Warriors, 6 minutes in, a perfect start. The second try came through a beautiful set of play. Jacob Kiraz is known for being a dominant powerhouse. He's known for having a brilliant offload, his power, his physicality, but here he used guile and footwork to break the Warriors' defense apart. Then he gets a nice offload over to Stephen Crichton. Crichton goes through with a line break, the first of his second in this game. And with that, the Bulldogs then shift the ball all the way to the left. The ball ends, the game place ends there, but then they shift all the way back over to the right. A masterstroke from the Dogs, and something I'll talk about in just a moment. But then through the right-hand side, we saw good old trusty classic, Lachlan Galvin short ball to Jacob Preston. Preston goes through, Dogs lead 12-0 because Critter converts. Is there anything more classical than a Lachlan Galvin short ball to Jacob Preston? It's like having popcorn at the movies, or a bag of Smiths on the couch, or seeing a KFC ad during a rugby league game, or your mum giving you a giant calf with a wooden spoon because you've been the biggest hater when and it happens on a weekly occurrence. Anyway, sorry, back to the video. Second half starts. We thought Josh Curran was going to open the account for the Dogs, but Matt Burton clearly needs to work on fooling the referees to thinking he's competing for the ball. But it's alright, Matt. We forgive you. We know you're going to get there, mate. Connor Tracy, an absolute try-saving machine tackle on Dallin Watene-Zelezniak at a crucial point in the game. Because honestly, I thought Dallin was going over. But Connor Tracy 2025 regen turned up in round 21, 2026. Right time, Connor, because we've been waiting for this level of Connor Tracy all year, baby. Dogs get their only try of the second half not long after. A nice scrum play, Galvin to Tracy to Jacob Kiraz, who scores power, guile, a nice Lebanese sidestep, and Jacob Kiraz confirms and concretizes his brilliant performance with a try, well deserved. Dogs lead 18-0. Warriors got a nice consolation try through Chanel Harris-Tavita, but at that point, the game was already over. The Bulldogs win over the New Zealand Warriors 18-6. Warriors drop from second into third as a result of the victory, and the Bulldogs now go equal 8th, with the Cowboys sitting in 9th only on points differential. Overall, this was a brilliant performance. What's changed? I'm about to go into that. But I want to highlight one key thing with the Dogs. They really need to tidy up this area of their game, despite the brilliant performance. The final 20 minutes after the 60th minute was nearly diabolical, if I'm being really honest. The Bulldogs were making errors in their own end. Rinakama, Max King were making errors, to name a few. Well, they're the ones that I remember at least. And through that, the Warriors were getting more and more possession. Now, what the Bulldogs did demonstrate here, though, is a resilience in their defense. They answered every question that the Warriors asked of them. And let's be really honest, I think the Dogs bashed up the Warriors and sucked their confidence out. So by the time the Warriors even had the ball, they didn't even believe that they could get through the blue and white wall of the Dogs. So if we can just play that level of intensity, that level of discipline for 80 minutes, I think the Dogs are going to be very difficult to beat in this competition. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win the comp, but I'm not saying they won't either. Warriors obviously are without Jackson Ford as well, who is a key player for them, but you know what? Spade's a spade, no excuses. So, what's changed for the Dogs? What has been the key difference, the recipe to this success story? And they've only lost 2 games in the last 2 months. I've seen a lot of people saying it's as simple as Jacob Preston and Viliami Kikau are back. Well, no, it's not that simple, because we had those two players when we were struggling. And the truth is, the Bulldogs' attack was floundering. Here are the key differences that I've certainly noticed. One, Bailey Hayward is running a lot more out of dummy half. When he's getting those quick play the balls, he's actually attacking defenders, and that's been a really positive change to see. Only 3 runs for 20 metres, but that was a lot more than what we've seen for more than half of the season. So Bailey Hayward definitely now growing into his own as a dummy half, getting a little bit more creative. I saw him do a chip and chase in the second half as well. That was a really positive sign to see from the Bulldogs number 9. And the Bulldogs forward pack are simply making more metres as well. Max King, Leo Thompson, both ran for over 120 metres each. Jacob Preston ran for 118 metres. Jamin Salmon ran for 116 metres. So the Bulldogs' middles are making metres, and even on the edges, they're starting to have a little bit more fluency. But is that all there is? Well, no, I think it goes deeper than that. Stephen Crichton. Stephen Crichton's moved to the number 6 shirt, and I use the term number 6 shirt because I think Stephen Crichton's playing halfback. But Stephen Crichton moving into the halves has really evolved the Bulldogs' attack. I think we're making more meters because Stephen Crichton is simply directing the side to where it needs to go. Now, last week, Sean O'Sullivan was dominant in the performance against the West Tigers, and a lot of us called for Sean O'Sullivan to remain in the side because we saw the level of control, and we saw that what it did for Lachlan Galvin, who was galvanized, no pun intended, and is playing some of his best football in a Bulldog shirt as well. But the key difference here is, when I was talking through the highlights earlier, you'll notice that I mentioned when the Bulldogs scored in Jacob Preston's try, there was a great shift from the right to the left and all the way back over to the right. The Bulldogs were not executing those plays as well in the first half of the year. They simply were not even doing the shift play. They would make the wrong decision. Galvin would go to dummy half, or he'd be the first receiver and he just wouldn't make the right choice. On these occasions, the Bulldogs are shifting the defense. So after a line break, that's when a defense is the most vulnerable. By shifting the attack quickly from side to side after a line break, you're putting the defenders under all sorts of pressure. And I think that's where you're seeing the Bulldogs now fruit the results of some of their labor. Also, with the attack, the decoy runners or the out-the-back options were sitting far too deep. While Matt Burton would go directly into the line, Stephen Crichton is almost doing the opposite here. The Dogs are playing a little more flat. The out-the-back option is a lot more shallow than where they used to be. And that is actually, instead of the defender suffocating the out-the-back play, Stephen Crichton is allowing the ball-running option or the flat option to get early ball. Now, that's a key difference here. You're getting Viliami Kikau, you're getting Matt Burton, you're giving them space to run. Anari Tawala, you're seeing, has been making line breaks and breaking tackles on a regular basis. Jacob Kiraz, these guys are getting more space and time because they're getting fed early ball. And I like this variety in the Bulldogs attack. The left-hand side seems to be, let's get the ball to them as early as possible and get them in one-on-one situations, which is a great thing to do. Viliami Kikau is not he's not a dangerous ball runner as sharply as I'd say Jacob Preston is, but in terms of one-on-one, there's not many harder players to tackle than Viliami, and I think giving him early ball gives a nice variety to the Dogs' attack. Then on the right-hand side, it's a lot more direct. You've got Lachlan Galvin, who's a runner first. Then he's putting Jacob Preston through with short balls. Then you've got Connor Tracy out the back. And I think this variety in from the left to the right is asking more questions of the defenders and opposition defenses. And that has been a really positive evolution of the Bulldogs attack. So yes, it's a combination of players returning, but ultimately, and yes, the attacking structure has varied a little bit, but Stephen Crichton shifting into the halves, playing halfback, being the leader, being the captain, that's ultimately been the catalyst that's been conducive to such positive results. Now, are the Bulldogs going to make the 8? Yeah, I think there's a very good chance that they do. Now, how far can the Dogs go? That's the question. We've beaten the team coming first. We've beaten the team coming second. So clearly that means we're going to win the comp, right? In all seriousness, I think getting through to a finals is success given in the context of the season, given the injuries, given the inconsistencies. Here's a question I want to leave the video with that I ask all of you, and I want you to get your comments in below. If the Dogs go far in this final series, with Stephen Crichton at 5'8", what does that mean for the Bulldogs heading into next year? Does Stephen Crichton become the Bulldogs' long-term number 6 or 7? Or does he revert back to the centres, and does that mean they're putting their faith back into a Mitchell Woods or remain in the market for a Bulldogs halfback? I think Connor Tracy won't be the Bulldogs fullback next year. I think Bailey Hayward will fight it out with Freddie Lussick next year. But the halves is just a big question mark for me now, because we're actually getting some positive results. Anari Tawala's killing it on the right. It's a really, really interesting question, and I want to know, what would you do with the option? Would you leave Stephen Crichton at 5'8", should the Bulldogs make it to the semi-finals or a prelim final or whatever it is? Or would you move Stephen Crichton back to the centres, irrespective of what the Bulldogs go on to achieve for the rest of the year? Let me know below. Anyway, there's my review of the match. I hope you all enjoyed it. Dogs are well and truly marching, and the NRL is officially on notice. Enjoy your rugby league and get out of here.